it's Monday, January 11th, and you're watching The Great Lost Rewatch. Today we're watching the Season 4 episode, Something Nice Back Home. And the Something Nice Back Home here is that I'm going sledding later. That's why I'm all bundled up. Anyway, this is a Jack-centric episode, and on the island, Jack needs his appendix taken out. Okay. It's too hot in here for that. So we discover that Jack is sick, and Juliet finds out that it's his appendix that needs taking out. Juliet sends Sun, Jin, Dan, and Charlotte to pick up what she needs to perform the appendectomy on Jack. When they get to the medical station, Sun and Jin are talking in Korean about Dan and Charlotte, and Jin asks, does Charlotte know that Dan's in love with her, and Jin says she's a woman. Of course she knows. And Charlotte kind of smiles at that, and Jin notices. And he also notices that when Sun and Jin are talking to each other in the station about getting her home, she is watching them and seems to understand what they're saying. Meanwhile, back on the beach, Jack has said he wants to be awake during his surgery so that he can talk Juliet through it. He says that Kate can hold a mirror so that he can watch her perform the surgery. Juliet reluctantly agrees and asks Kate to be his nurse, essentially, and she says yes. Once Dan and Charlotte and Sun and Jin get back, Jin confronts Charlotte and speaks to her in Korean, and he keeps speaking to her in Korean until she finally says, yes, I understand you. And he says, I just need you to get Sun off this island the next time your helicopter comes here. And Charlotte asks, what about him and the rest of their friends? And he says, just get Sun off the island. They perform surgery. Yuck. Surgery. I work in the medical profession. That shouldn't be yucky to me. But it is. And Jack really feels the pain because they're only able to do local anesthetic, so it's topical. So once they get through the first layer of skin down into like the muscle and stuff, it's killer pain. And so Bernard knocks him out, and Kate kind of runs away crying. Back with Miles, Sawyer, and Claire, they're trekking through the jungle when they run into Frank. Frank says, hide, Kimi is coming. So they do. They hide very quickly just in some bushes kind of right near the clearing that they were standing in. And now that, ever since Leslie said something about Miles being able to, paying attention to Claire the way that he does, now throughout this whole episode I'm watching Miles and Claire interact, and I agree with Leslie. I think Claire's a bed. But anyway, Sawyer and Miles and Claire stop for the night, and Claire wakes up in the middle of the night and sees Christian holding her baby, and she follows him into the jungle. In the morning, Sawyer wakes up, and Miles is up and sitting next to the campfire, and Sawyer asks where Claire is, and he said, well, she walked off with some guy. And Sawyer's like, you didn't try to stop her? And they hear Aaron crying in the jungle, so they go get him, and they shout for Claire, and that's the end of the episode. But in flash forward, we get Jack off the island, working as a doctor, living with Kate. And they're making kissy face a lot in this episode. He's living in Kate's suburban, beautiful house. He's kind of acting as a father to Aaron. In his work life, he gets a call from Santa Rosa, and he goes to visit Hurley. Hurley says, I've been talking to Charlie. He told me to tell you that you're not supposed to raise him. But then Jack goes home and he proposes to Kate, and he kind of starts to crack up after this. He sees his dad at the hospital. His dad even says something to him, and then somebody walks in the room and he's startled out of it. Jack comes home one night and overhears Kate talking on the phone. The next night she's gone when he gets there, and he asks Kate where she's been, and she admits that she was doing something for Sawyer, but she won't tell Jack what's happening or what she's doing because he wouldn't want her to. And it's kind of, we can see the dissolving of Jack and Kate's relationship. She says, I don't want you around my son. And he says, your son? He's not even related to you. So I guess we know that he's discovered that Claire was his sister. Not a whole lot of analysis sort of stuff to talk about in this episode. There's a lot of questions as to what Christian really is, how it is that some characters can see him and not others. Obviously it's his two children that see him in this episode, but then does Miles also see him? There's another Star Wars reference when Jack steps on a toy version of the Millennium Falcon at home. Jack is reading to Aaron from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, which has been referenced many times in this series as well. Most notably the episode Through the Looking Glass. I guess that's really all there is for today. Leslie, you're back tomorrow with Cabin Fever. I'll see you then. Bye.
We're gonna need to watch that again.